Welcome. This is the Love Life Light Channel, a space for clarity without panic in an age of noise. Here, we slow things down, not to escape reality, but to see it more clearly. Let's begin. Life. Order, limits, and human flourishing. A spoken essay. Life is everywhere around us, and yet strangely absent from much of modern living. We are biologically alive, technologically advanced, constantly connected, and endlessly busy. And yet many people carry a quiet sense that something essential has thinned out. Energy is spent, time is filled, choices multiply, but vitality feels elusive. We are active, but not deeply alive. This raises a question we rarely stop long enough to ask. What is life actually for? Modern culture tends to answer these questions indirectly. Life is framed as survival, comfort, self-expression, or experience accumulation. To live well, we are told, is to avoid suffering, maximize options, and remain unencumbered by limits. But this definition quietly fails, because a life organized around avoidance and expansion often becomes fragile. A life organized around endless choice often becomes anxious. And a life organized around comfort alone eventually feels empty. Life, it turns out, cannot be sustained by abundance alone. To understand why, we need to recover a more precise distinction. There is a difference between mere existence and human life. Existence is biological. It is the continuation of processes, breathing, eating, surviving. Human life, by contrast, is meaningful existence. It is existence ordered towards something. It implies direction, purpose, and form. A body can exist without flourishing. A person can flourish A body can exist without flourishing. A person cannot flourish without order. This is where modern confusion sets in. We have become very good at preserving existence while neglecting life. We extend lifespans, increase comfort, reduce risk, and expand access. And these are not trivial achievements, but they do not by themselves answer the deeper question of what makes life worth living. A life protected from harm but emptied of meaning does not feel like a gift. It feels like maintenance. This is why people surrounded by options often feel trapped, why abundance can coexist with despair, why freedom, as it is commonly defined, frequently produces anxiety instead of joy. The problem is not that people want too much life. It is that they have been given a distorted picture of what life is. Life is not simply being alive. It is being alive in the right way. And the right way is not arbitrary. Life in every domain where it flourishes does so within structure. Growth does not occur in chaos. It occurs in form. A garden does not flourish by removing boundaries. It flourishes because boundaries exist. Soil is cultivated. Weeds are removed. Paths are defined. Without this order, growth does not become richer, it becomes overrun. The same principle applies beyond nature. Music requires structure. Without rhythm and key, sound collapses into noise. Language requires grammar. Without rules, communication dissolves into confusion. Art requires form. Without constraint, expression loses intelligibility. And human life is no different. Vitality emerges not from limitlessness, but from limits rightly placed. This is a difficult truth for modern ears because we have been taught to equate limits with oppression. Boundaries are framed as arbitrary impositions. Structure is treated as an enemy of authenticity. Discipline is seen as the death of freedom. But this is a misunderstanding. Limits do not suppress life. They make life possible. Without limits, nothing holds, nothing grows, nothing endures. This is why chaos feels exciting at first, but unsustainable over time. It promises freedom, but delivers exhaustion. It offers intensity, but not depth. Order, by contrast, can feel restrictive at first, but it creates space for flourishing. This reframes freedom itself. Freedom is not the absence of restraint. It is the capacity to move meaningfully towards what is good. A pianist is not free because there are no rules, but because years of discipline have made expression possible. A runner is not free because they ignore the body's limits, but because they respect and train within them. Freedom grows where form is honored. Yet modern culture has inverted this logic. Choice has been elevated above formation. Options are offered without orientation. People are told they are free because nothing is forbidden, but no one teaches them how to live. The result is not liberation, it is paralysis. When everything is permitted and nothing is shaped, the burden of meaning falls entirely on the individual. Every decision becomes existential. Every choice feels permanent. Every failure feels catastrophic. They were given options, but not a way of life. Life requires more than permission. It requires formation. Formation is the slow shaping of desire, attention, and action over time. It is how the raw energy of life becomes directed towards flourishing rather than dissipation. Without formation, desire rules. And desire left unshaped does not lead to life, it leads to excess, addiction, and fragmentation. This is not a moral condemnation, it is an observation. Human beings are not self-organizing systems. We require structure from the outside and discipline from within. We are formed whether we intend it or not by habits, environments, narratives, and constraints. The question is not whether life will be ordered. The question is by what? When order is rejected, it does not disappear. It's simply replaced, often by less humane forces. Algorithms replace wisdom. Impulse replaces reflection. Convenience replaces meaning. And over time, life begins to feel thin. This thinness is everywhere. People consume constantly, but feel unsatisfied. They move endlessly, but feel stagnant. They speak often, but feel unheard. They chase pleasure, but feel restless. What they lack is not stimulation. They lack depth. Depth requires structure. Depth requires time. Depth requires limits that allow something to take root. This is why ordered life is not opposed to joy. It's preconditioned. Joy does not arise from excess. It arises from harmony. When different parts of life are integrated rather than competing, work and rest, desire and restraint, freedom and responsibility, when these are held together, life gains weight. This brings us back to love. Episode 2 clarified that love is the orientation of the will toward the good. Episode 3 now shows us the environment in which that orientation can endure. Love cannot survive in chaos. It requires a life that is structured enough to sustain it. Promises cannot be kept without discipline. Commitments cannot endure without limits. Care cannot remain patient without order. This is why the erosion of structure eventually erodes relationships. When life is organized around impulse and immediacy, love becomes episodic. It appears instantly and disappears just as quickly. Order gives love somewhere to live. This is not rigidity, it's stability. Stability does not mean stagnation, it means coherence over time. It allows growth without disintegration. Modern life resists this because stability feels slow, and slowness feels threatening in a culture addicted to acceleration. But acceleration without direction leads nowhere. Life is not meant to be maximized. It is meant to be cultivated. Cultivation is patient work. It requires attention, restraint, repetition, and care. It accepts seasons rather than demanding constant intensity. This is why love lived well often looks unimpressive from the outside. It is steady, faithful, ordinary, but it is deep, and depth sustains. The tragedy of modern living is not that people lack opportunity, but that they lack orientation. They are told to build lives without being taught what a life is for. So they build endlessly and feel hollow. To recover life, we must recover order, not imposed order, but meaningful order. Order that serves flourishing rather than controls. This begins with small things, with rhythms instead of chaos, with commitments instead of constant options, with limits chosen rather than limits imposed by exhaustion. Life regains its weight when we stop trying to outrun finitude and start inhabiting it wisely. We live in the here and now. This does not eliminate suffering, but it gives suffering context. It does not eliminate difficulty, but it gives difficulty meaning. And meaning changes everything. A meaningful life can endure hardship without collapsing. A meaningless life cannot endure comfort without corroding. This is why ordered life is not a retreat from reality, it is an engagement with reality, as it actually is. Life is finite, time is limited, energy is constrained, attention is precious. These are not problems to be solved, they are conditions to be honored. When we honor them, life flourishes. When we deny them, life fragments. So the invitation of this episode is simple, though not easy. Stop asking how to have more life and start asking how to live rightly. Not perfectly, not impressively, but in a way that can endure. Love orients the will. Life provides the structure. In the next episode, we will again look at light and examine the question of how we see clearly without illusion, and why truth has become so difficult to name in an age saturated with noise, confusion, and endless information. But for now, let this settle. Life is not found in limitlessness. It is found where order and vitality meet. That is where flourishing begins. Thank you for taking the time to think carefully. If this has helped you bring clarity, take it with you and let it shape how you see, speak, and act. Until next time, remain steady.